welcome back to my channel. My name is Annelies and today I will be reviewing 3 new Zara fragrances. This is a new tobacco line that Zara released, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, and you can find it in the men's department. I know they've also released some other lines, I think 3 eau fragrances, which is water in French, so probably like 3 freshies, and I also think they released 3 woody scents. Haven't smelled any of those. Today I am just doing the tobacco line, and also I would like to make a little bit of a disclaimer. This is probably gonna be the last men's fragrance review that I will be posting. I have noticed that I am struggling a little bit with reviewing men's fragrances or fragrances that were advertised for men, let's say, because sometimes, you know, they can be unisex. However, I do find that I have a little bit of an imposter syndrome thing going on because I don't really know a lot of men's fragrances. I don't really know the typical notes that are often seen in men's fragrances. I know it sounds silly, but it's just different, and it feels like I'm doing something that I'm not really doing very well. So yeah, today the tobacco fragrances, I definitely did want to review those. And also I was pretty curious to see if these are unisex. But yeah, if you're like me and you love your Zara fragrances and you do want to watch my other Zara fragrance reviews or other fragrance reviews, of course, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I already have several other Zara fragrance videos up on my channel already, and I do plan on releasing a bunch more. But yeah, probably only feminine lines from now on. Okay, so let's just get into the fragrances. And as I said, there are 3 new fragrances. They all are tobacco centered, and they are called Tobac Jazz, Tobacco Tango, and Tobac Treasure. They come in 100 ml bottles of eau de parfum, and they retail for roughly 18 euros, 28 US dollars, and 33 Canadian dollars. So let's just start with the first one, which is called Tobac Jazz. Tobac Jazz is described as a gourmand fragrance with notes of pear liqueur combined with vanilla and a bewitching tobacco. Other notes in this fragrance include bergamot, orange flower, osmanthus, rum, sandalwood, and cedarwood. And I can tell you already that this is probably my favorite from the line. It is a very soft, sweet, easygoing fragrance. I thought the opening was actually very, I thought the opening was kind of feminine, to be honest. You really get that pear, that orange flower, bergamot. Those are notes that you very often see in women's fragrances. And when I sprayed it, I thought, you know, is this really a men's fragrance? I did think it was super feminine. But then in the dry down, that is where the osmanthus and the tobacco does come through. So I do think it sort of turns into a bit more of a masculine scent, but I still think this is equally suitable for women. I do think it is unisex. So yeah, like I said, in the dry down, it does become sweeter. However, I do think this is a sweet fragrance, but it's not overly sweet. It's not sickly sweet. I wouldn't even call this a full-blown gourmand. I think you have enough of the other notes, such as that osmanthus and pear and bergamot, that don't really make it gourmand, but it has some sweetness. It's very soft. It's a very easygoing fragrance. I'm not getting a huge amount of the rum, to be honest. I expected more of a boozy, darker fragrance. So I don't know, I'm not really getting the jazz reference, as I think it's a little bit too light and inoffensive and pleasant to really make me think of jazz. I don't know, jazz, just, you're imagining this dark and boozy and warm place. It's a little bit too easygoing to be called jazz, well, Tobac Jazz, but that's just my opinion. Speaking of jazz, if you are wondering how this compares to Margiela Jazz Club, the Replica line, you probably already know that one. If you don't, I highly advise you to check it out because it is an amazing fragrance. How does this compare? That's actually very easy to answer. It doesn't. It is not reminiscent of Jazz Club. It is not similar in my opinion. Maybe some notes are there, but I would definitely not consider this dupe or inspired by any means. I think Jazz Club, personally, I think it is an amazing fragrance and I think it is way better than this one. So this one is, personally, I think it's cute. I think it's definitely wearable. It's easygoing, but I'm also not really blown away by it. If I had to rate this fragrance, I would just give it a 7 out of 10 because it's fine, it's pleasant, but like I said, nothing mind-blowing, nothing that really stands out. It's just nice. Oh, and also performance. I've noticed that it is not really projecting very strongly, so it is quite a subtle scent. On skin, this disappears rather quickly. I've given all these a wear on skin, by the way. This one disappeared on my skin. However, I did this morning, I picked up my sweater that I wore. So I sprayed this on the inner elbow of my left arm and then I sniffed it, and later I wore a sweater over it, and this morning the fragrance was still in the sweater. So it does last on clothes. So if you do buy this one, I would suggest to also really give your clothes a good spray, because then you'll be good. But on skin, not the most long lasting one. But yeah, that was Tobac and Jazz. So the next one in this line is the number 2, and it is called Tobacco Tango. Tobacco Tango is described by Zara as a woody fragrance with notes of mandarin, rose, and tobacco. Other notes include saffron, almond, ylang ylang, gaiac wood, labdanum, incense, and tonka bean. And I can already tell you right off the bat that this, to me, is a pass. When I first sprayed this, I was instantly put off. I do not like this DNA. However, obviously, as all fragrances are subjective, I just cannot stand a woody rose scent profile. That's just something that doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me in Perpetual Oud, which I reviewed last week. I will put the link up here and down below in the description. It didn't work for me in Oud Satin Mood. Also doesn't work for me. Yeah, woody roses, not my thing at all. So this one is the same. So in the opening, you get this super, in my opinion, is super sharp, harsh, woody rose. Like, it is just like smacking you in the face with the dryness of that wood and the sharpness of the rose. It is just, in my opinion, very unpleasant. I also let my husband sniff this. I didn't tell him what I felt about it, and he instantly went like, ooh, no, like no. He didn't like it either. But in case you're already scratching that from your wish list, let me tell you that you have to give this a full wear on skin before you decide, because the notes do really transform into something different once this dries down. So in the dry down, I'm getting more, in my opinion, pleasant notes such as the tonka, the almond, the tobacco, obviously. So more of those slightly creamier, sweeter notes that just sort of balance out that sharpness in the opening. And then further on in the dry down, the harshness of the woody rose, it's still there, but it really settles down to a more wearable intensity, let's say. For some reason, I think this smells like what a detective's office in the 60s would smell like. I don't know why I'm getting that image, but that's what my mind transports me to. I don't know. Like I said, not my thing at all. It is very hard to really give like an objective review about a fragrance that has a certain DNA that just does not work for you. So if you like woody roses, just give it a try for yourself. But yeah, for me, definite a pass. Although, you know, that dry down does make it a little bit better. If I had to give this a rating, you know what? The opening is probably a 2 out of 10. But then that dry down is not too bad. I would give the dry down maybe a 5.5 out of 10. So overall, I think I'm gonna give this I still have to give it a bad rating. I'm sorry, that's, again, it's all subjective. That's just my personal taste. I'm giving this a 4 out of 10, but of course, let me know what you think if you've tried this and if you maybe do like this sort of fragrance. I would love to hear, so let me know. But yeah, that was Tobacco Tango. Oh, and I almost forgot. This is, I would say it's also unisex, but I do think it's a little bit masculine leaning because of the woody notes. So yeah, unisex, masculine leaning. And we have already reached our third fragrance, which is this one, and it's called Tobac Treasure. This fragrance is described as an amber fragrance in which cinnamon blends with ginger. Notes of tonka bean and vanilla add sweetness to its warm tobacco base. Other notes in this fragrance are dried fruits, heliotrope, and musk. Okay, so this one I'm a little bit unsure how I feel about it. I am mostly getting the dried fruits, the benzoin, and the cinnamon. And in this fragrance, you know, the previous fragrance, personally, I thought the opening was terrible, but the dry down was doable. In here, I am liking the opening better than I am liking the dry down. The opening is quite nice. It's sweet. It's not super ambery just yet. I am immediately picking up on the cinnamon, the dried fruits, the vanilla. I feel like in the dry down, the heliotrope and vanilla and those ambery notes stand out more. And I don't know, this could just be me, but vanilla combined with amber sometimes is beautiful. Sometimes it can be a little bit nauseating. I'm not saying that I get nauseated by this fragrance, but it's balancing on the edge. I do think, again, this is very unisex. And the second one I thought was unisex masculine leaning. This one, I actually think it's just right in the middle unisex. I have smelled this type of profile more in masculine, like male directed fragrances, but I don't know. I think the sweetness makes it very wearable for women as well. I always link sweet fragrances to women. I don't know why I do that, but yeah, this one definitely unisex. And also, if you're wondering how this compares to Parfums de Marly Herod, let me tell you, I have absolutely no idea. I have never smelled Herod, so yeah. Can't help you with that. Sorry. If you have and you smelled this one, let me know in the comments if they compare. I have looked at the notes and I've compared the two, and they do have some similar notes, such as the tobacco, the vanilla, I think the tonka. This one has heliotrope and Herod has osmanthus, but Herod doesn't have that benzoin and those dried fruits that I do find are very present in this one. So I would be surprised if this were actually a dupe for Herod. I don't think it can be, to be honest. But maybe it's sort of similar. I don't know. You'll have to let me know in the comments because, like I said, never smelt it. It's on my sniff list though. Oh, and of course, performance. This one, from all three, definitely performs best. I would say this is a very strong performer. The projection is pretty big. It's nice. You do have a nice, sweet scent bubble around you. And the lasting power is amazing. I think I sprayed this on somewhere in the I sprayed this like around 10 o'clock in the morning. And by the time I went to bed, I could still smell it on my arm. And that was around like 11 in the evening. I could still smell it. So definitely a very long-lasting fragrance. It has to be said. So this is the most long-lasting one. Then I would say number 2, Tobacco Tango. And then the least long-lasting one is Tobac Jazz, but like I said, it does last on clothes. So let me just quickly give an overview just to make it clear how they differ from one another. So the first, Tobac Jazz. Soft sweetness, but not a gourmand sweetness. Light, very unisex. You get a little bit of a feminine designer fragrance opening. Long lasting on clothes, not on skin. Oh, and probably the most inoffensive one out of the three. Second one, which is Tobacco Tango. Very sharp, woody rose opening. In the dry down, the warmer notes come through, like the almond and the tonka and the tobacco. I would say this is average performing. It's not beast, but it's not bad either. It's definitely fine. Unisex, maybe a little bit masculine leaning. And then the third one, Tobac Treasure, is definitely the sweetest one out of the three. Dried fruits meets heliotrope meets a soft benzoin. Very, very long lasting and unisex right down the middle. So that was it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you think of this line and if they are dupes or reminiscent of other famous fragrances that I just don't know or haven't smelled yet. Like I said, I don't really know that many male targeted fragrances. If the video was somewhat helpful, you would really help me by giving it a thumbs up. And if you want to watch more videos like this, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I hope you have a lovely weekend and I will see you for the next one. Bye!